In today's episode, we speak once again to the amazing Chad Price. Chad is a seasoned serial entrepreneur with an impressive track record spanning over a decade. He founded Kettlebell Kings from scratch and orchestrated a remarkable 3-year multi-million-dollar acquisition back in November 2021. Today, it stands tall as a thriving international company making waves and esteemed Inc. 5000. In 2019, Chad pivoted to another passion of his, natural lifestyle products. His new company, Life Grows Green, is uprooting negative stereotypes about hemp and creating new products by only using elements found in nature. He is also the author of Preparing for Battle, an amazing book. So today we're going to speak to Chad about how you can prepare for battle in order to win in life. Let's speak to Chad and find out. And remember, if you want to upgrade your money mindset, then click on the link www.millionairefoundations.com and watch my free training. Welcome. This is Gull, your money mindset expert. And today, once again, we have the wonderful, we have the charming Chad Price. Welcome, Chad.
Thank you for having me. Nice to be back.
Thank you, Chad, for coming back. We had such a fantastic conversation on Friday feature. We had to have you back on Money Talkies. But thank you so much for coming back. But before we begin, everyone's heard your intro, Chad, but please, in your own words, tell everybody what it is that you do.
So I'm a seasoned or serial entrepreneur somewhat. I graduated from Rice University and started my own company. Started several companies, actually. My most notable company, Kettlebell Kings, was acquired, and I culminated that kind of chapter of my life with a book, Preparing for Battle. And now I've moved on to the next chapter of my life, which is my consulting career, speaking, obviously writing. Then I also have a company, Life Grows Green, in which I sell natural products as well. So kind of doing quite a few things at once.
Awesome. And today's topic is preparing for battle to win in life. It sort of aligns with your book. Now, that's an interesting title. Talk us through, why did you choose that title, Preparing for Battle?
I think a lot of times, we are somewhat misled about the intensity of the task ahead, especially the difficulty of the task. So entrepreneurship, especially one of those things in life that I think is one of the more challenging things most people get themselves into. And it can be the most challenging thing that you ever participate in, to be honest. And I think it should be that way. I think it's a competitive space. I think it should be competitive. And I think we owe it to kind of one another to prepare ourselves for the difficulty or the responsibilities of going into a battle like that. And so I wrote the book to try to really give you somewhat of a time to self-reflect and think about how do you get mentally prepared for what's to come. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be more challenging than what you're currently doing. It should be more challenging than what you're currently doing, or you wouldn't kind of be going towards that kind of thing. So, I think at the end of the day, when you're trying to start something that's difficult, having the correct mindset gives you the best advantage and the best chance to actually see it all the way through. And so that's why I chose Prepare for Battle.
I mean, I definitely agree with you there. But, I think we touched upon this topic on Friday feature where every business is a battle. Every day is a new challenge, a new day. They say new day, new devil, right? And if you are not mentally strong enough, you will collapse under the pressure of being a leader of a company. And entrepreneurship is not for the faint-hearted. It comes with a lot of twists and turns and ups and downs. So the title, Preparing for Battle, is very appropriate for in this scenario. But a lot of people are not prepared for that. How do you prepare for battle? How would you prepare yourself? How would you prepare yourself mentally for this? If you've never experienced it, I mean, especially for those of you, because I'm talking to those of us who are highly academically, able, and we've got high grades and gone to top universities and gone into corporate careers. But that is a different challenge compared to running your own business. How does someone who has always been successful, got the top grades, got to the top jobs, and is doing well in the corporate career, transition over into a life which is very unstable, a new challenge every day, and it literally is a battle sometimes every single day? How do we mentally prepare for that?
Well, I mean, I think that comes in kind of how you choose to live day to day. I think you can practice that on a regular basis, and most people just don't put themselves in that mindset to be kind of at practice on a regular basis. So I can find myself not being or living up to my own ideals of what I think I should be doing, whether that's how I react to situations, how emotionally intelligent I am going into a circumstance. So, there are so many opportunities throughout our day-to-day lives for us to practice being leaders, for us to practice being motivators, staying positive, not letting negativity bring us down. And very similar to a physical workout, your mind has to be toughened and strengthened so that you are able to do more than you currently think you are supposed to be able to do. So if you're, in an employee position,
Yeah.
the ownership role requires you to lift more weight. It requires you to carry a heavier load, to move
Yeah.
faster, to be stronger than you currently are. And you can do that from the employee position, but you have to think about it on a regular basis. You have to go above and beyond, trading time for money. It's not about that anymore. It's about, are you actually a better person than you were a month ago, 6 months
Yeah.
ago, a year ago? And when you start looking at life like that, I think it becomes natural where leadership roles are presented to you because people can see that in you, as well as you want those roles because you can see how effective you are and how you can make the entire operation run more smoothly. So, I don't think you should go from, let's say just kind of a low level worker to straight to the CEO. I think you should try to find experiences that let you run small teams, that allow you to get these opportunities to actually perform in these roles because you're going to have to run those types of teams when you lead. So I would try to put myself in those positions. When I was 22 years old, 23 years old, I was on a construction site as the project manager. So, I'm over 50 people that are older than me, some younger than me, but I'm usually one of the younger guys out there, but I want that role. Like that's the role that I apply my everything, my intellect, my passion to. And if you saw me in that role, you would think I wanted to be a construction person for the rest of my life, just because I'm trying to grow in everything that I'm doing. I think a lot of people, they get confused in thinking that their job is just a job and it's not an opportunity for them to actually develop the skills needed for entrepreneurship
Right.
or leadership or whatever that is. And it is a kind of a practice field for you to hone those skills.
100%. Now, let's talk through your journey. So you were a corporate employee at one point and you're rising through the ranks. So talk us through, where were you in your corporate journey when you made the decision of, no, I'm going to become my own business? And then how did you transition over?
Well, I mean, I think just like a lot of people, when you graduate college, you're looking for a corporate job. Your first job is usually not paying you what you expected to get from your college degree, blah, blah, blah. You go through that same kind of rude awakening that every adult has to go through when you get into the job world or the job force. For me, it was no different. I got into construction, really loved it, kept working my way up in construction until I was a project manager there. Tried to transition that project manager role directly to like an oil and gas project manager role, but my age and experience didn't necessarily overlap with oil and gas. And so I ended up getting a different job in oil and gas and working my way kind of up the ladder toward that role. During that journey, I was in operations, really doing, let's say, the operational teams for, moving gas from place to place. And it was actually a job that, you got orders and things got done. As I grew inside of that company, I kind of got promoted to a more corporate role, which was outside of operations, kind of overseeing things. And if I'm being frank, I didn't like it at all. It was, it was a lot of politics. It was a lot of
as usually the case in most corporate organizations, unfortunately.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. It was no fault of the company I was working for. It's like this is most companies. But going through that experience really showed me like, hey, this is not the position I would place myself if I had a choice. If I had a choice, I would go back to operations because we get things done. And I like getting things done. And even when, I was there, I knew, okay, this is something I need to learn. I need to understand because I see the purpose for some of these roles outside the office and the need for this in an organization like this. So I will have to either hire or work with people like this in the future if I want to do things like that. So it really just taught me that. But it also showed me that if I wanted to do that, I could always do that. I know I feel very confident in my own skill sets and the things that I've been able to achieve in my life. So if I want to go back to corporate America and dedicate 20 years there, I knew I always could. 30 years there, to me, that wasn't a hard decision to make. That was kind of like an option B, if you will.
Right.
But if I wanted to start my own company, I knew I would have to really dedicate some time to it, and it would kind of be a now or never type of deal. So after working in that, quote unquote, good corporate America job for about 3 years, I decided that this is not what I want to do long term, and I want to take my shot. So I got 2 partners together, and that was literally me reaching out to people who had spoken to me before about potentially wanting to start a company. Didn't even know what type of company we wanted to start. My biggest goal was just to get people committed to the idea of starting a company, and that being a serious venture. So, I wanted everyone to put up $10,000 into an account, and then we'd have regular meetings and we'd start kind of mapping out some strategic plan for starting a company. And that's how everything started for me was, let's all put our savings that we save from our quote unquote corporate jobs into an account, and then create some type of council that can make decisions about starting a company. At the same time, I knew if I quit my job, I wasn't going to have any income. So I looked up, okay, well, what are businesses that I can start that actually have positive cash flow early, that can generate revenue, quicker, and nail salons became that option for me. So my girlfriend, it was coincidentally also a very creative nail artist, and she wasn't doing it at the time, but she just had that skill set. So while she went and got her license to do nails, I started doing construction on the salon, and it all came together at the same time. And we look back at it as history.
Wonderful. So when you were transitioning over, you didn't have an exit plan. You didn't think, okay, so I want to leave my corporate job, I should have an exit plan of 1 or 2 years, put savings on the side. You just took the plunge.
Well, I knew before I took, let's say I took 2 corporate jobs outside of operations. Before I took the last one, I knew it was a possibility. So I was thinking about it,
right.
And that may have been 6 months, 8 months before I actually got out of there. But yeah, I mean, I knew I would have to take the jump. And to me, taking the jump, it was also kind of an act of inspiration for the team that I built as well. So, I think there were several incidences or several key points along the journey of starting, especially in my most notable company, Kettlebell Kings, that galvanized us as a team to really push and put energy into the brand itself. And that definitely was one of them. I remember my partners being like, oh, this is serious now. Chad quit his job today. This is something that, we're not taking lightly. And I wanted that. Like I needed that like kind of life or death level of intensity, because that's the level at which I was attacking it. And we had several of those along the way. And I think those types of situations is what really kind of made the company grow. If I would have kept my corporate job, my partner probably would have he ended up leaving his corporate job about 6 months later.
Okay.
And he realized he had to. He realized like, okay, I'm not able to give what Chad's able to give, because I'm over here basically giving the best of me to this place who I know I don't want to be there long term. So he had to kind of do what you're saying, is put an exit plan in place, put money aside, whatever that takes to do that. But him seeing me do that, my other partner seeing me do that, it really sent the message like, hey, this is something that we don't play around with, and we're taking serious and going to really grow this thing.
Wonderful. I think it's important for people to understand whether you have an exit plan. I always recommend an exit plan. I did it without an exit plan, so I normally take the plunge. I just go with it, sink or swim either way. But I think for mental health reasons, for sanitary reasons, I think it's best to have a plan in motion, and an exit plan is great. But either way, you have to take the plunge. I know people can think and procrastinate for years on end, and they so-called have an exit plan which goes into next year and the year, and they're not really serious about it. And the next thing you know, 20 years have gone by and you haven't gone to what you needed to do. But whether you have an exit plan of a year or 2 years or even 5 years, because if you've got family and they have a certain lifestyle and you don't want to disrupt their lifestyle, then it has to be a longer plan. But you need to make a commitment to it. And it happens, this commitment has to come in all areas of life. I think that's why I love the title Preparing for Battle, because every aspect will be a battle. Now, I know I don't want to be living in UK long term. I was born in UK and I grew up in, you know, I was born in Manchester, I grew up in London most of my life, but I know I don't want to be here. So, you know, I've got a kid who's in, you know, in high school, and a daughter who's currently in sixth form and going into degree. So I had to mentally think, okay, exit plan. When I'm leaving, what can I do? And so it's 6 to 8 years ahead, but I've already got planning motion. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. This is what happens here. This is what's going to happen in the business. So I think if you mentally commit to something, you can always work backwards to what you need to do now in order for you to achieve your, you know, whatever goal it is, 5 years, 4 years, 10 years down the line. Most people lack that foresight. They lack that commitment. They would say one day, and one day never comes. What's your advice to someone who lacks that commitment? They say, I want to do it, but not yet. Let the children go up. I mean, I know I've got a child who's 12. There's no way I'm leaving the country until he is 18. No way, right? But that doesn't mean that I don't start thinking now and I think, okay, where do I want to move to? What do I want to do? What I want to do with multiple businesses? Am I going to sell them? Am I going to exit them? What am I going to do? But I'm already thinking, I'm already preparing for the battle, as you say. What advice would you have for someone who does think like that, who's thinking, yeah, I'll cross that bridge when I come to it. I really want to, but I really would love to, but I can't at the moment. I've got too much going on.
I think when we become adults, we really lose the ability to chart out, let's say, a strategy or a system that allows for us to grow in a lot of the other aspects besides, let's say, physical fitness. Physical fitness is a lot easier. You can go get a program, you follow the program, you get stronger, in better shape. But I don't think that really exists as much for starting your own business, you know, becoming more mature, becoming a better parent, whatever that is. What are the practices, and then what are the games? And then how do you get better at each kind of step of the way? And I'm so used to that from sports that I kind of set that up for myself. So a game to me would be like a huge event or something that you can't really get away from. And then you have to go to war with the army that you have. There's no not going to war, not going that day. We're going to war, even if we lose. And I've always had that mindset to where I'm trying to create situations of deadlines and situations where, hey, this is important and we're going to go throw everything at it today. And even if we lose, we're going to go throw everything at it. We're not going to just sit back and not do it. So for me, that would look like giving myself a hard deadline when I'm going to quit this job.
Right.
Yes, I'm going to put a plan in place, but the deadline's the deadline. I don't get to move the deadline because of my feelings of uncomfortability. That's, you know, if that was the case, there would have been a lot of football games that would say, hey, can we actually go practice a few more days? Because, you know, I'm not feeling so good right now. And you don't get to do that. It's game time, right? And I'm used to doing that, and I'm used to putting that pressure on myself. So that's exactly what I did. I was like, you know, I know we want to do this. When we get to this point, I'm going to put in my 2 weeks notice. And is everybody understanding what's going on here, and everyone's clear about it? And that's the deadline. So I would not just do that about my career, but about pulling the trigger on a sales initiative or hiring a vendor or whatever that may be. There's always a decision that needs to be made and a commitment that needs to be made to that decision. And you can use those times to get better if you really commit. And it's hard, you know, it's hard to put your family at risk, your revenue stream at risk. It's hard to do all those things, but there's no other way. So, you know, that jump that you're referring to, it's the only way. If you haven't jumped, you're not gonna generate enough velocity for success. So you're literally going to be stagnant and not growing fast enough. Whereas the person that jumped, yes, they may feel scary the first few months, but once you get used to the speed and the acceleration required to really grow, you're going to understand, like, hey, I had to jump, and jumping was the best thing that I've ever done, because now I'm in it at the pace that I need to be running, instead of kind of still, you know, straddling the fence, if you will.
Yeah, completely makes sense to me. I think a lot of people are so emotionally scared of, you know, what will happen, and I think it's usually either fear of success or fear of failure. It's usually one or the other, and most people think it's fear of failure. I think it's fear of success is equally to blame as much as fear of failure. And then we base our decisions on those emotions, and then we logically come back to, oh, but it's not the right time and whatever else. So we find excuses to justify actions based on our emotional decisions. And that's what I've seen across the board. I think you sometimes have to go beyond your emotions and have to, have the, obviously, you normally have the fear anyway. Have the fear, face your fear, and take the decision and take the plunge anyway. Otherwise, you never get moving. And here's another question for you. So a lot of people say, well, yeah, I would love to do this, but I don't have, my partner's not on board, or what will my family think? What will my parents think? And I've never had anyone support for whenever I make a decision, ever. Whenever I made anything decisions at all. I mean, I remember when I wanted to do the New York bar exam. So I got my degree here. Before I took the English bar exams, I took the New York bar exams, and they thought, why are you doing this? Do you want to move to New York? I'm like, I don't know, maybe, who knows, right? Yeah. And I paid money and whatever else, and I did no one paid for it. I paid for it myself, but even then it was like, what the hell's wrong with you, right? And I did it. And then starting my business, I remember my father and my brother were dead against it. You're a lawyer in 3 jurisdictions. Why are you, after all this education, why do you want to do this? And I'm doing it. And now when I changed from coaching, because as a coach, I've been very successful, and then I went into other businesses, same question. My brother said, well, you're so successful as a coach. Why are you going to business? Like, because I want to. Right? Yeah. I never listen, so I'm known for that now. She's never going to listen anyway. She doesn't. She's a bit stubborn. How, what kind of support did you get from people around you when you made the decision to go leave your corporate career and go and take the plunge and go into business? Most families, unless they're from the business background, do not support the decisions. Let me ask about your father. How was your military father, who's used to a certain lifestyle? How did he support you in your decision?
I mean, you kind of hit the nail on the head when your experience is similar to mine. Is you never get support, really, and not the support that you want, no. Not the support that's going to give you the security.
I think they're supporting you in their own way. They're trying to protect you.
Of course, and that's what I mean. So I say I didn't get the support, but I know my father wants me to be successful. So don't confuse the two. Yes. But he's not going, and he shouldn't be able to see my vision, because my vision doesn't exist, and it's not the journey that he lived. So yes. His level of risk is not the same as mine. His risk assessment is definitely not the same as mine. So
risk tolerance as well. Yeah.
Risk tolerance, but even how he sees how risky the things I'm doing, I might not see them as that risky, because I am more capable at that certain thing. So, you take football, for example. Of course, someone would say it's risky to go out there and tackle 250 pound people. But I've been training for this, and I'm good at it. So it's not as risky for me. It's risky, but it's not as risky for me. And I think
you can take calculated risks. Exactly. And only you can decide what that calculation is, because nobody else can assess for you, can calculate on your behalf. It has to be calculated risk. I always say calculated, but you have to do the calculation. You cannot rely on other people's assessments.
1,000%. And I think that's where the self-awareness comes in. And to me, I am always trying to test myself in that way. So every day at work, I'm testing myself with these quote unquote calculated risks. I'm giving myself more responsibilities, whether you give them to me or not, because I want to know for myself, can I handle more? Can I do more? I'm trying to improve on the amount of decisions I can make in a day. The better the better decisions I can make per day. I'm literally thinking about every single day of my life, how do I get to be a little bit better than I was the day before? And that just makes everything easier for me, even when people don't believe. So, when I'm starting a kettlebell company, is every single person, when I would say, oh, I'm starting a kettlebell company, they'd be like, oh, where you guys at? And I'd say, well, we don't have a physical location. How are you going to start a kettlebell company with no location? I'm just like, okay, here we go again. And to me, that inspires me. I'm like, you don't understand it? Okay, cool. That means I have something. Like that means I know I have something that you don't understand. And a lot of people can get demoralized with that. And I think it's because you haven't been through enough. I think you haven't heard no enough. I think sales jobs help people quite a bit.
100%. That builds thick skin.
If you have not had a sales job and you're trying to get an entrepreneurship, just go get one. Get an outdoor sales job so you can understand what no means, and you can understand no is just an option. It doesn't mean that that's the end of the world. It means to move on to the next more than anything. And for me, that kind of stuff, like knows people not understanding, it's just, I expect that. I don't have a good idea if everyone's like, yeah, that's go back to sports again with this kind of analogy. And the way I deal with it is, I don't expect anyone to really kind of cheer me on until after we won the game. So,
Yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Yes.
if we haven't won anything, to me, there's nothing to cheer about. And I just need to go back and get better. So I find it a lot easier when, it's almost like people are cheering about my past somewhat. And I'm always trying to do the next thing. So
Yeah.
you're cheering about what I accomplished 2 weeks ago. I'm already on the next game. I'm already thinking about the next huge challenge and how I'm gonna tackle that. Some of these challenges I lose, and people don't see the losses. People don't cheer for the losses. You kind of, suffer in silence a lot of time with your losses, and you go home and you lick your wounds and you get better. And
Yeah.
I like that part of it. So, it's when I see people cheer, I'm like, you have no idea how many wounds it took for me to get there, but still, cheer for me now is totally fine. And I'm so used to that because I've been a player, and I've always understood, linemen, for example, do not get appreciation. They don't get cheers in football. You go and you block the whole game for the quarterback, and the quarterback gets all the credit.
Right. Yeah.
But you understand, and when we win the national championship, win the state championship, you'll get your cheers, you'll get your pat on the back. And And that's just the way I've always looked at it. Like, the people in the stands are always going to be the harsh, skeptical, critics of whatever you do. And the only way to have them cheer is to win.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that answer. I think that's a brilliant metaphor. In sports as well, you only get cheered once you've won the game, and that's the game it is in life. But you, like you said, and I agree with you, by the time people are praising you or cheering you on, you've moved on to the next part. Especially if you're a true entrepreneur, you have moved on to the next thing. And that's the only way you can go. I think you can carry on growing. Otherwise, you will get bored. So when people are congratulating me about the company, I was already thinking, okay, how do I turn it around? How do we double the revenue? How would you do this? And how, because I'm already on to the next task. Okay, buying is one thing. Let me go on to the next task and let me carry on. And then once that's in place, I'll be looking at buying more and more and more and growing, my group of companies as I plan to. But I'm already on the next part by the time you're praising me for what I've achieved just now. Yeah, and therefore, exactly. Your praises are, thank you so much. It's very kind of you. I'm not disrespecting it, but it's not necessary for me to go forward.
Yeah, I've already gone. Yeah, I'm already on the next task. So.
Exactly. I love that. All right. On that note, we're going to wrap this up. I want to give you just a brief statement going back to the title of today's episode, which is preparing for a battle to win in life. So, give us a quick summary of why you need to prepare for battle in order to win in life.
Well, like I spoke about earlier, I think when you graduate high school, there's kind of a change that has to happen in your mindset. And I say high school because most people that is their last form of education. But even when you graduate college, whatever it is, when you finish your formal education, I think if you want to challenge yourself, if you want to take on something that is more difficult than what you're currently doing, you want to bring in more revenue than what you currently have, it's going to be a battle. And that battle is going to mostly be inside of yourself, mentally getting yourself ready to tackle new challenges, harder challenges, to, I use the metaphor of being able to hold more weight and responsibility in life, because that is where the revenue is. The people that you're envious of or that you see in the leadership positions, you want those people to actually be better than you. You want those people to be true leaders, and you have to become one of those people. So I try to, in my book, I try to give you at least some points of my life in which I could self-reflect and think about how I use these things to become a better leader. And I think everyone has their own journey that they can reference and utilize to kind of hone themselves into the leader that you are. I don't think you have to lead in the exact way that I would. Some people lead with kindness, some people lead with a stick. But I think you do need to understand that there's a responsibility to doing that, and that there's a level of intensity of leading people into something that's difficult and bringing them out the other side that I would consider as a battle.
Wonderful. So tell us, Chad, how can we connect with you? Where can we find you on the internet?
I'm everywhere on the internet, social media, Real Chad Price. You can also find me on LinkedIn, Chad Price. I also have my website, chadprice.com, where you can find out more information about me, contact me, check out my book, Preparing for Battle. It's on Amazon. The link's on my website as well. But yeah, you can find me everywhere online. Wonderful.
So if you are listening to on the podcast, then the links to Chad will be in the show notes. And if you're watching on YouTube, down below in the description section, we'll have all the links for him as well. Go check him out. And I highly, highly recommend his book. Is it on, by the way, is your book on Audible as well?
It is not on Audible yet. It will be shortly. I have released it last month. So right now I'm trying to give it a run on Amazon, seeing if I want to make any final changes before I make the audio version of it. So
fantastic.
I'm in the beta month right now.
Wonderful. So check out his book on Amazon, and when he comes out on Audible, check it out on Audible too. But do check out, see how it can help you. Well, thank you so much for conversation today, Chad. It's been insightful, and it seems like we're very much aligned in our thinking. I think most entrepreneurs are when they, and so I think this is why it's such an entertaining conversation. But thank you so much for your insights.
No, it was a beautiful conversation, and thank you for having me today.
And thank you for listening to me and Chad today. I will be back with another amazing guest, finding out how you and I can build a better business. Until the next time we meet, this is Gull signing off. Take care and bye for now.